Had enough yet? Because this is it. This is my older brother. My loud, obnoxious... Seriously? Okay. Now you're just being... Forget it. I'm done. Pizza, bagels, Broadway, baseball, museum, Central Park, the restaurants, Madison Square Garden, Radio City Music Hall, the Horrors of Ninth Avenue, and the Peep Shows. New York always gets the credit. Since 1787, this town has sucked all the air out of the room. Well, that's it. Enough already. It's time New Jersey got the respect for being the biggest, baddest boast to the coast. And we're gonna hit you where it hurts. Your playlist. The secret to a good playlist is variety. Now I brought you the Four Seasons: Sinatra, Bruce, Whitney, Paul Robeson, Sarah Vaughan, Ice-T, Fugees, but I'm way more than that. Get ready to find out just what makes New Jersey tick, and it's not diners, beaches, and tomatoes.
What the hell is in the water in New Jersey?
For the bagels?
No. What is it in the water that makes it that we have this melting pot of musicians? How many musicians come from New Jersey? It's insane.
Jersey is like the old saying, you could take the boy out of Jersey, but you can't take Jersey out of the boy. You can't.
If you drive through New Jersey, you're going to drive through a microcosm of the entire United States. There's sort of everything. There's no desert, but there are beaches, and there are industrial areas, and there are like suburbs that are like the classic American suburbs. And then there are these urban areas like Newark and Hoboken and Jersey City.
If I'd been born in Philadelphia or Long Island, I probably wouldn't be in bands. It would be, maybe, I mean, that's what I love to do, but it was that edge of, we can do this and nobody's watching. Nobody cares what we do. We were free to experiment with any kind of music and write our own, try all different things. And it wasn't like LA or New York or San Francisco where somebody would be knocking on the door of your garage saying, I want to sign you to a contract.
When Trickster got signed, we went out to LA to record our first record, and we felt like outsiders there. It was always like, how are you gonna help me get to where I need to be? Where in Jersey, the bands were all like, hey man, how can I help you out? I remember vividly when we met John Bon Jovi, we gave him our demo tape back in 1986, right before Slippery When Wet took off. A week later, we get a phone call on our hotline, hey guys, it's John Bon Jovi, how can I help, blah, blah, blah. And he told the guys in Skid Row, make sure you take care of Steve and the Trickster guys. And they did that, and still to this day, we have a lifelong friendship and bond because of that.
There was a sense of community where they wanted to help you get better. No one was stepping on your neck, you know? That wasn't what it was like, at least what I remember.
Music brings together two complete strangers, and all of a sudden you're on the same page. and all of a sudden you're best friends for 20 years within 5 minutes of a song.
I always kind of got the vibe that Jersey bands were kind of like gangs. And, you know, you could f with the guys inside your gang, but if anybody touches someone in my gang, there's going to be a fist fight.
Once you start getting into bands, it's the gang mentality, and you know, you share the darkest of secrets, the highest of highs, and the lowest of lows, and that's part of that brotherhood.
There's a lot of ball busting between Jersey people and Jersey bands, and Steve Brown is like that, you know, and so is PJ Farley, who incidentally is now the bass player in Fozzy. Great player, but you have to really be quick and not take yourself too seriously and not be afraid to give a joke or take a joke.
When I first moved down south, I'd become friends with people slowly, and they'd be like, dude, when I met you, I thought you were an ass. And I go, why? And you're just so blunt. Everything that comes out of your mouth is just so matter of fact. I go, welcome to New Jersey, man. That's just how it is.
You bump me or you insult my wife or something, I'm gonna go after you. That's the way all New Jersey guys are. And a lot of them are a little more aggressive than others, but they all got that thing on. I'm sure you got it too. Yeah, and you too.
All right, maybe he's right. I got a bit of a chip on my shoulder. But that's probably because I'm so damn close to Manhattan and Philly. It's like George working in the shadow of John and Paul. I'm no pushover to Philly soul or Manhattan punk.
Look over yonder. What do you see? The sun is rising, most definitely.
Jersey makes sense. There's tremendous musical history here, especially in rock and roll. Got the Jersey Shore, you're in between two big entertainment centers, all places where rock and roll music was sort of invented in the United States.
People on the outside, and I know this from living elsewhere in the country, they think of Jersey and they think of the Turnpike, and they think of, you know, mafia, they think of all the stereotypes. They don't ever think of the Pine Barrens, and it was a great scene down there in folk music. And for many, many years, just prior to Bruce, if you were from New Jersey, you left, as Bruce even did. I mean, he had to go to New York to be discovered, even though he was a major figure on the Jersey Shore. He was a rock star, our rock star on the Jersey Shore.
There was music from New Jersey. It got all in the New York mix, and New York record companies didn't go as far as the Jersey Shore to look for talent. I joined Bruce's band in January of '71, and by '73 we had a record out. We expected to get a band record deal, but it worked out so that he got a solo deal, and we became his band. So yeah, it was pretty remarkable. And then, you know, within 2 years of that, we had a record that got some notoriety. And within 10 years of that, we were actually making a living.
John and Bruce figured out how to create a brand and a business, because that's what it is, you know, create something that really has a home, a safe haven, and is kind to everyone.
People want to feel good, and Bruce gets that. Like, you go to a Bruce show and like, you're gonna have a good time. You know, he's not going home until he knows that every single person there is having a good time. So to grow up with that, you want to be a part of it, and you want to be striving for that level. You kind of feel like you're inheriting this. You know, you're inheriting this, like, don't mess it up.
And all the music that I've heard in Jersey, I feel like it definitely represents the type of struggle people endure here from being a very overlooked state.
New Jersey's always been the most done state, and I've had to defend it my entire life. And so I think when you're from New Jersey, you have that thing that goes like, you world, I am from New Jersey, It's awesome. The best people I know are from New Jersey, and we're gonna be loud and proud about it.
A lot of greats come from Jersey, you know what I mean? So the standard is high. So that was always inspiration, and that pushed me to do my due diligence as far as learning my craft, you know what I'm saying? So I would definitely say Jersey inspired. Jersey musicians, because they're slept on, you know what I'm saying? You always hear about the places around us like New York, Philadelphia and all that, but nah, Jersey got the heat.
One of the first pieces of music heard in America came from New Jersey's Lenny Lenape Indians. The first published song in America came from the pen of Newark's Francis Hopkinson. From the Smithereens, Blondie, Patti Smith, Paul Simon, My Chemical Romance, and the legendary Les Paul. I bleed music.
Les used to come to this house on at least, I don't know, 5 or 6 different occasions. Every time he had a bag of popcorn in his hand. So I'd go to the front door, he's eating popcorn, and he'd come in, and he always wanted to see how I did what I did with my right hand. And he would get on his knees, and he said, now do that run again. And he would study what I do. And he was like, God, I don't understand how you did that. And he would just shake his head. And I had a bunch of people in the house watching. And here's this guy who's known to be not just a legendary guitar guy, but also an inventor, you know, that blown away with me. I was, you know, I think consider myself, you know, on that level at that time.
If you knew Les, he was hands-on, so hands-on. He didn't just, you know, seeing those shows at the Iridium, he didn't just show up because he was Les Paul. He was Les Paul. He was directing everything. Every move he made, he knew what was going on. And you would think Les Paul being an inventor and being all the things that he was, and he could say, I just have to sit here and people are gonna love it. That wasn't the case. He gave you 150%. You know, for the longest time, my mom said, you gotta sing with Les Paul, you know? And, you know, things happen, and it doesn't happen when you think it's gonna happen. And years later, I got to sing with him for about 4 years before he died. My entire life has been sort of this circle of musician, entertainment, and just having fun meeting people all throughout. And New Jersey is really where, you know, gosh, I mean, I feel like now with getting to do the things I'm doing, New Jersey has really been the number one place.
Rain, 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 fall on me, wash away and set me free from all this pain. I'm sick of all this crying.
Don't waste my time. Don't waste my time. Jazz legends abound within my borders, and many of them found their stride in Englewood Cliffs, where Rudy Van Gelder recorded Monk Miles and Dizzy. Though he may not be a household name, Van Gelder left a mark on music that will remain permanent.
I grew up in a hip-hop sampling era, and when I started producing later, I would work with Q-Tip. He and I produced his album together in North Jersey, in his studio in Englewood Cliffs, and we used to always talk about Rudy Van Gelder. And you know, Tip was a huge sampler as well, like, as you know, many know. He with a few others were some of the first sample Ron Carter that later made him one of the most sampled bases in hip-hop history. And that's what made me fall in love with Blue Note. It was the sound of it. And I think I kind of had an attachment because it was no secret that some of those cool records were done right there in North Jersey, and the way it was done, right in the house. And it was something about the story of not just the sound, but it happening in the house and just so raw. It was like, that was so us. You know, all we had was to make something out of sometimes nothing, and that's what Rudy did, you know, working out of his parents' house.
I think I just got my license or my permit, and I drove up there, and I just pulled in the driveway just to see if I could see some of those guys. And he was very strict. You know, he had like a white line. He said, nobody crosses that line to come into my control room. If you did, you get screamed at.
This is it's for everybody from Seabright and Long Branch, Point Pleasant, Aswan, Belmont, Bradley Beach. Somehow I lived in every one of those places. This is for Vinny down at the Islander. All the guys from North Beach. Dominic, and it's for everybody who's still back in Asbury Park.
Asbury Park, home to that lusty, balls-to-the-wall party, rock and roll with horns and incessant backbeat that's the province of Stevie Van Zandt and Southside Johnny. But this is only one part of a jigsaw maze of statewide musical mayhem. I'm too complicated for anyone's sound, but I got attitude in spades.
We played at the Upstage Club. This is a club that had no alcohol, so teenagers could go, and we were still teenagers back then. We became eventually the house jam people. So we were there all night long, and we made $15 for all that time, and we were glad to get it.
I was young, I was like 14, and I was hanging out at Upstage, and I was meeting Bruce and Stevie Van Zandt, and a lot of the people who became E Street Band members eventually, Southside Johnny certainly, and I befriended them as a very young musical enthusiast.
We learned how to play with everyone. We learned a million songs, and it was really a crucible for us, really a college of musical knowledge.
Southside, he knows more about old blues harmonica players right up through the soul, the 60s, and all of that music. Look at the way Steve Van Zandt writes. That's his thing, man. It's all about that music and those influences from when they were teenagers.
I grew up in Ocean Grove, which was a Methodist retirement community when my parents moved there. My father's father lived there. He's a pillar of the Methodist Church. My father was not. He listened to black music, and eventually they parted ways. But when he got married, he wanted to live somewhere there, and he found a house in Ocean Grove. So I'm Jersey born and bred. My brother and I shared a room, and we had no heat in the upstairs room. So we would leave the door open so that the heat downstairs would come up. And along with the heat would come Billie Holiday's plaintive voice. And sometimes she was happy, sometimes she was sad. And it just kind of seeped into me. I love Billie Holiday. She moves me to this day. I mean, if something comes on that has her singing, I have to stop whatever I'm doing and listen.
There was a time when Asbury Park was as segregated as the Deep South. Black touring musicians like Billie Holiday, Count Basie, and Duke Ellington tended to perform on the west side of Asbury Park, while the east side was the province of whites.
You hear stories like big names coming to play on the boardwalk, but then after hours going to jam on Springwood Avenue all night.
It wasn't like what the white musicians were doing. It was another place. It was another musical place. I feel fortunate that I was able to kind of learn about R&B music and funk music at a young age. It just helped broaden horizons, you know.
Musicians talk about how they would go and play, and when their break came, they would run around the corner to go to listen to somebody else play. And there was a real community of musicians who appreciated each other, and they supported each other. My relatives would come down from New York and other places just to hang out on Springwood Avenue because it was a mecca, especially for African Americans.
And what would happen is some of the musicians would come from the east side over to the west side, pick up the music and bring it back.
It was music that, it was just real. The music was so real. It was better than coming in this area and hearing a band.
That to me is what makes the music here special. Is that integration coming from the west side, you know? That raises the game, you know, and that makes the musicians funkier, groovier, you know, more happening.
I just wish that people knew more about the real history of it. The organ trios
Guys like Donnie Bertelsen, who were around at the same time as Bruce Springsteen, maybe even before him, that influenced him.
Wanna rock and roll away with you. I wanna rock and roll how we used to do. I'd like to hold your hand, stick you all around.
Clarence Clemens was headed to the NFL before injuries derailed his dream. The saxophone proved to be his salvation, and he blew loud and strong on the West Side, where he was discovered by Stormin' Norman Selden, whose first band, the Voltaires, bridged the gap between Asbury Park's segregated dichotomy.
Clarence came one night when we were playing at a John Barleycorn over on 35, and he just walked in looking for a phone. Because he got a flat tire. And he looked over and he said, "You have a band here?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You allow people to sit in?" I looked, he's 6'7", 300 pounds. I said, "Sure, you can sit in." He was going to play a couple of songs. He ended up playing the whole 2 hours. The people were stunned in the audience because there was no black in a white band. And my drummer was from Brooklyn. And he leaned over to me and goes, please tell me you're not going to do this again. Because he knew what had happened with the Voltaires and all the black groups I had before. And I said, "I want to put you in the group." No, and I never said anything to him about anything. We took some pictures, and then I started getting some phone calls, and the words weren't very kind. Well, I said, "Then I guess we won't be there." He said, "You'd rather turn down the money we're paying you than let him stay home?" I said, "Yeah, it's fine." He said, "It's going to be very bad in your career when you do that." I said, "Let me ask you something." I said, "If you cut yourself, do you bleed red?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "If your heart stops, do you die?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Then there is no difference." We kind of parted ways when Bruce needed another piece to make that band what it was. About a year or two later, they were off the road, and I turned around and he was standing in back of me with his coat on. He said, "You allow sit-ins here?"
What's there? That's my dad's hands right there. I believe. Yeah, that's my roots so far, they've spread out, and to put my roots in this soil has really helped my career so far. That all stems from, my pops and his influence on my creativity and things like that, and his constant motivation up until the last day we had with him. I've never seen two people have such a connection like I have seen my dad and Uncle Bruce, and that is the most, I can't even explain it to you, that is like the most, it makes me like tear up a little bit because there's nothing like it.
We used to play a game. The musicians from Newark against the musicians from Patterson. Who would win? 9 against 9. Put 1 against 1. These are the games we played. We had Bucky Pizzarelli on guitar. They had Nick Lucas. That's a tie. That's not even a match.
The Jersey sound, my sound, if there is such a thing, may be rooted in the Jersey mentality of hard work, perseverance, and family. The late jazz legend Bucky Pizzarelli from Patterson instilled that work ethic in both his sons, John, a singer-guitarist, and Martin, a bassist.
My dad would have people come over. It would be Benny Goodman, Milt Hinton, Slam Stewart, Zoot Sims. Just gave me appreciation of just the people themselves. And then, oh, that's Zoot on that record? Oh, that's Milt playing? Oh my God, Milt Hinton. He was just at the house.
Then there's the Patterson Vivinos. Oldest brother and TV star Uncle Floyd has been beloved for decades. Brothers Jimmy and Jerry are both accomplished musicians.
Conan Show came about based on my experience, again, with New Jersey musicians. I had been recording with Southside Johnny over the years, with Bruce Springsteen, with Bon Jovi. I was on a few of their records and did a few gigs with them now and then. And Max Weinberg, of course, was involved. Max created a record company, and next thing you know, he's calling us up and saying, hey, you want to audition for a television show? And sure enough, we got the gig.
When I started, it basically, there were 65 places in Bergen County and Passaic County that hired piano players, men, and I'd watch them and learn how they played. And they had to be the whole orchestra with two hands.
There was a way of making music back then that did not require an education. Like Bruce, I'm sure if you put a guitar part in front of him, he's not going to read it. And when it came time to the Four Seasons, none of them knew how to read or write music. It was they learned how to play the music, they learned how to play the chords, and they learned how to play music organically.
And I learned they all broke chords. They were chord breakers. In other words, that's the most important thing to know. And I play by ear, but that was how I watched them. To sit by them, guys, I could name 100 names, but they're all gone now. But they would play. Just wing it. There's so much talent out there. I think the reason New Jersey had so many musicians is it was a lot tied in with the ethnic deal, meaning people from Europe. The Italians, Jews, my God, Italians and Jews, all their children played instruments. Violin, guitar, at least guitar, and it's accordion, my God. Oof.
And there was no one who had a better tremolo than Tommy DeVito, who played with the Four Seasons. No guitar player in the world would play the guitar like a mandolin and play the full chord like that. There was just something about the way that they approached music.
It's the immigrant thing. The music was important.
I'll give you the other one. No, you're not playing. Dude. Take the other one. Woo!
My father was a musician. He used to play in the house band in Havana at the Tropicana. When he came to the States, you know, of course, to get pulled out of a country and start a life in a new country, you know, it was very hard. One of the early jobs he had in Hoboken was at the Guild Factory, which, of course, he used to bring home guitars, and I was around music. He'd play guitar. I was like, okay, I love this. I finally got serious when I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, which probably every other guitar player, a lot of musicians my age would say that was a big influence. My mother used to say, would you put that guitar down? No, wherever I went, there was a guitar.
Jersey City fostered Robert Cool Bell and his late brother Ronald, whose parents always emphasized music. The result was Kool and the Gang.
I was born in Youngstown, Ohio, and we came to New Jersey in 1960. And in 1964, that's when we met the other members who eventually became Kool and the Gang. At the tag of Ladies' Night, there's this is your night tonight, come on, let's all celebrate. And my brother said, well, you know what? That's another song. So he started putting some music together. And the music, it had that kind of down home feeling, you know. I call it like being in Birmingham, Alabama, and Grandma and Grandpa out on the porch with a glass of Kool-Aid or something, you know. It had that thing to it. And then we came up with the Yahoo, which kind of brought us across the whole country in the Midwest and everything. And who knew that Celebration was gonna be that type of record? My father the boxer, Bobby Bell. And where he used to box at, there was a building there that Thelonious Monk and my father, they all lived in the same building. And Miles Davis used to come around and he, wanted to get in the ring with my father. And my father said, Miles, man, I don't want you to spar with me, man, because I hit you wrong and bust your lip and mess up your career.
It was really important to be authentic with whatever music that you were going to play. Getting an opportunity to play with great jazz musicians, you had to be representative of knowing that language.
What can you say about Frank that hasn't been said already? My wife doesn't like to hear this, but I was not a big fan of jazz vocals for most of my teen years and my early 20s. I was listening to horn players. I'm listening to Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Wayne. It wasn't until I met the great Ray Brown. He said, man, you need to listen to people like Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald and Nat King Cole. If you really want to learn the Great American Songbook and these old standards, the way they're supposed to be sung, listen to those three. I think I heard Sinatra at the Sands with the Count Basie Orchestra, and Frank's my dude. Through the years, I've been fortunate to work with a lot of jazz legends, particularly Chick Corea and Pat Metheny. And from those two, I took a page out of their book. They've always had multiple bands. They change groups often. It's not only good musically, it keeps you on your toes, it keeps your musical skills sharp, playing with a lot of different people. But it's also good business.
I had made this call back to New Jersey to a guy who was like my big brother. He was actually my sister's friend, but he took a great liking to my music. And he was also an amateur recording engineer, really amateur. But he wanted to record me on a New Year's Eve at Richard's Lounge on Route 9 down in Lakewood. Here I am with the Barry Miles Quartet, and he slipped me a tab of acid, and I was tripping my brains out. And it was a wonderful experience, let me tell you. And he made a tape of that night. When I heard the tape, I said, oh my God, I don't know how I play those lines. Those are lines I don't even know. But that's the tape that Chick heard. So when Chick called me up, when I was up in my dorm in Berkeley, he goes, I heard a tape that your friend Mike gave us, and we'd like you to join the band. I said, who is this? He goes, this is Chick Corea. I said, no, come on. This has got to be a joke. I said, no, this is, I said, what tape was it? He goes, something you did on New Year's Eve. I go, oh my God, not that one. My mother comes to the door. She goes, what are you doing home from Berkeley? I said, Mom, I'm playing Carnegie Hall. She goes, what? I said, I'm playing with Chick Corea. She goes, well, who's Chick Corea? I said, no, Chick, it's like Chick Corea. It's my favorite band, Return to Forever. My father's at the table. In the background, I could see him. He's in his white T-shirt, and he's reading the paper at the table. And he looks down, he holds the paper. Carnegie Hall, get the hell out of here. You're not playing. What are you doing home from school? I said, Dad, I'm playing with Chick Corea. And he goes, as well, he goes, who the hell's Chick Corea? I said, Dad, this is really happening. They send a car out to pick us up, a limo, to take us to Carnegie Hall. It was like that Tuesday. And I'm sitting in the back facing forward, and they're sitting in the seat in front of me facing back, looking at me. My father's shaking his head going, wow, unbelievable. He goes, you know, Albert, he always called me Albert. I always did tell you how you get to Carnegie Hall. It's practice, practice, practice. And I'm thinking to myself, it's acid, acid, acid.
Jazz and R&B is American music. You know, and the whole world copied it. And New Jersey picked up on it strong. They brought it to another level. I don't mean a higher level, a different level.
People that come from different regions have different perspectives on the music that they play. Jazz music is something that Black Americans made. It was not just the fact that it was made in New Orleans that all jazz music sounds like New Orleans jazz music. That's not the case.
I'm lucky that I was able to actually pay some bills and work with some really talented people at the tail end of, I think, what is considered the jazz rock era. Because of Jimi Hendrix's influence on me, I started listening to people that he talked about and that his drummer Mitch Mitchell talked about. And that was Elvin Jones, who was his favorite drummer, and started listening to jazz. And for a couple of years, that's all I did was listen to jazz and try and emulate how to play bebop, how to be more technical. But I didn't get a chance to really join any projects until the Al Di Meola tour. And then the next year came Brand X. So those were kind of at the height of my fevered love of dense drumming. But prior to that, I had worked for a couple of years in the Jersey metropolitan area playing disco, because actually the tail end of disco as it grew, it killed a lot of genres of music, in my opinion, and one of them was jazz rock.
Just like grunge would later help kill hair metal, disco didn't do jazz rock fusion any favors when it hit the scene in so many Jersey clubs, forcing many acts to adapt and get funky or say goodbye to that sweet cover band money.
I really began playing music in bars and clubs in the 70s. It was an odd time because the band would go up, we'd play rock and roll, and then when we'd take a break, everybody would get on the dance floor because they'd start playing this disco music. And then we'd interrupt all of that, and we'd play our rock music, and the dance floor would clear. And that was a typical thing in that era.
There became a people-watching culture. If you went to the disco, it was all about what you wore. If you went to the club, you were wearing, flared boot jeans and fry boots and corduroys, because that's what there was. And it wasn't about how you looked, it was about what you were into.
Right around 70, 77, competition got stiff. There were more discos opening or more nightclubs opening. The first couple of years, it was at capacity, 7 nights a week. And back then, you paid $3, $4 cover charge to walk into a nightclub. It was like, oh.
I made the very first disco records with Gloria Gaynor, who's also from New Jersey. I produced Never Can Say Goodbye. The way disco became popular, radio stations, even today and back then, were very difficult to get on the air. And WABC was the #1 radio station in the entire United States. And where were they? They were in New Jersey. So disco music or dance music was becoming popular in the New York club scene. And in order to save money, the bars set up speakers and played music. But the records weren't really made for that. And then when I saw that was happening, I said, hey, I could make records that will work there.
Thank God I was able to play that and able to relearn how to play simply. And I think that's probably what I've been able to do over and over is reinvent the way I play, or what I can play for somebody else to help bring their idea of music onto a national stage or an international stage, and sometimes to record.
While Hendrix's drummer Mitch Mitchell influenced Chuck Berge, Jimmy himself in 1965 was the lead guitarist in Joey D and the Starlighters, a band that also featured 3 of the Young Rascals, doo-wop vocalist David Brigatti, the underage Ronettes, and even the world-famous actor Joe Pesci.
Well, doo-wop is essentially a vocal music that is
comes from the streets. It's an African-American form that was created in the subways and in the street corners and areas of different parts of the country. I think there's like everything else, there's an East Coast sound, there's a West Coast sound. So there's usually one lead singer that would sing the melody in the falsetto, and the other backgrounds, one would cover the bass, and the other voices, baritone, well, the baritone and the tenors would cover the harmonies in between.
I started singing in 1954 at Garfield High School. The principal said, whoever would like to entertain for assembly, get up, go practice in the projection room. And 10 of the guys slithered off the stage. They were nervous. That left 7 of us. My legs were shaking, but my bass, boom, 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 ba, ba, boom, boom. And we sang a song called Speedo. My female teachers loved it so much that I never did homework again.
The first rock and roll show I ever went to, Fabian Theater in Hoboken, the curtain went up, and I was astounded. I was amazed. All the performers were black, and I never even thought about it. The Valentines, the Heartbeats, you name it, the Solitaires. I didn't know there were black kids, young men singing there. I didn't even think about it. We wanted to have a really, we call it a boo sound, a blow harmony sound. We wanted to get a black lead singer. So we went to a black area of Jersey City. There was a guy standing on a corner with a vest on, leather vest with a build like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Joey yells out the window, "Hey man, any guys sing around here?" And he says, "Yeah, Snake and them sing over in Mop City." "What's Mop City?" "There's a black barbershop down yonder." "Oh, thanks a lot, man. But by the way, what's your name?" And he said, "Dupree, baby, what's yours?" And they said, "Geez, that'd be a good name for a group, the Duprees."
Growing up in New Jersey, and Passaic in particular, created Joey D and the Starlighters because I was in an integrated neighborhood. I'm a first-generation American. Both my parents were born in Italy. I had a little leadership qualities at a very young age. I noticed that as well. And that's when I started the band, and I had the, as they say in Italian, the chutzpah to start my own group, Joey D and the Starlighters. We put the band together, and now I didn't have any vocalists because I sang a couple rock and roll songs, but we did mostly instrumentals, Bill Doggett's Honky Tonk and songs like that, and Rock Around the Clock, of course. I had the business acumen to hire 2 of the best doo-wop lead singers, David Brigatti from the High Fives, from Garfield, New Jersey, and Rogers Freeman from the Vibratones, which was an all-black group. And I could get gigs because I had a band, so we can play bars, we can get money for this. So I hired them, and we did all the local places, ended up at Oliveri's in Lodi, packed it every night. I had the best singers, I had the best band. So everybody came to see us.
Jimi Hendrix came into the group. He was discovered by Joey D. He showed up with just a guitar and pink hair curlers. He had no strings, no amp, nothing. But he played with us for about 7 months.
So now the band was morphing. The band went through some changes. And I got Felix Cavalieri as my keyboard player, who played at the Choo Choo in Garfield, New Jersey. Then I got Gene Cornish, who was from Rochester, New York, played guitar. And I had Eddie Brigatti, the younger brother of David Brigatti. David got married and he left the group, so I took Eddie in. So now I had 3 of the 4 Young Rascals as Starlighters, so they were my backup group. And I had a kid called Ricky Channon as a drummer. But I knew Dino Danelli, who became the 4th Rascal. Now they played together as my Starlighter band, and every time I'd get up on stage at my club, they'd be my backup band. So what happens was, I had everybody but Dino. They started making such great music together, they put their own group together, called themselves the Young Rascals. And they worked out at the bar out in the Hamptons, and Ahmet Ertegun happened to be there from Atlantic Records. They said, wow, this is a great group, and he hired them.
They used to call these guys the Jersey Beatles. Young Rascals were just incredible, you know, a unique thing. And they were another blend of soul, white guys that were singing like soul singers with a rock edge and a soulful Hammond and harmonies that were great. And I'm telling you, if you're anywhere around my age and you don't have this album and it's not worn out like all this because you played it so much and you lost the inner jacket like that, you know, then you didn't really get the Jersey experience, because these guys probably are the epitome of what, you know, the Jersey sound was for their era.
Be sure in a world that's constantly changing, well, how can I be sure where I stand with you? In those days when you worked, for example, in Jersey especially, you had to play top 40. You know, they didn't want to hear like your songs. They wouldn't even listen to them. And obviously it affected, you know, what happened, you know, in my so-called singing voice career, because I grew up on that. I really didn't want a record deal unless we were able to produce ourselves. And so Atlantic said okay, and they were the only ones that said okay. I really, you know, was proud of my band. I mean, our band was we were pretty good. You know, we had 4 guys in our band who had been leaders of their bands, so to speak. And you know, there's always one guy in a band, everybody look. We had 4 of those guys. So when we hit that stage, see? So, as I say, little Steven put us back together for a while, and after about a month and a half, all of a sudden, that magic came out. See, when we had it, it's so interesting. Sometimes 4 people just click, and that's what we had, you know? So, pretty much the Jersey influence on us is very strong, because Jersey guys are very strong.
Not only are Jersey guys strong, as Felix says, they can be brutal, as in heavy metal. Metallica had to travel cross-country to be discovered by Johnny Z of Megaforce Records, who put out the band's first 2 albums, Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning.
Music is a religious commitment. If you are a metalhead in 1983, odds are you're a metalhead right now.
I was a suburban kid, grew up in Old Bridge, New Jersey, had a friend, Gary, that had a neighbor that sold heavy metal records at a flea market. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, knock on his door, you can buy some records. I said, okay. I think I was 14. So I go over, I knock on the door, this man opens the door. He's about 28 years old, has a wife, about 28 as well, had a little baby, 1-year-old. And he's like, yeah, come in the garage. So I go in the garage and there's records. Motorhead, Iron Maiden, Angel Witch, like all this crazy, obscure heavy metal. And I'm like, okay, what is this world?
All I wanted to do was listen to my records, and I couldn't stop finding new music. How wonderful that there was this burgeoning scene where I could go and see all of these bands play live music.
The club scene in the Jersey area kind of spread out to the tri-state area, but I really think that Jersey had the club scene, because, I mean, you know, every 15, 20 miles in North Jersey, you were running into a new club. I mean, you could go to, you know, the Soap Factory. You could go down on Route 17, the Hole in the Wall, Mother's over here in Wayne, New Jersey. It just kept going and going, and this was primarily cover bands. So when we first started playing, we were a mix of covers and originals.
We had to fight and claw our way through hell to get our originals accepted, and then to maintain our popularity through the originals so that we could get away with not playing cover material. that was a big struggle. I mean, that was really, really big struggle. Most bands don't want to risk it because the money was so good.
You could play anywhere. I mean, there was in Asbury Park, there's the Stone Pony, there's the Fast Lane, there's Colonel's Garter, and there's Close Encounters, there's Mingles.
The Soap Factory, we used to be in competing bands to play the room with the giant airplane hanging in it, which was sort of the secondary room, but on a Tuesday when you had White Tiger and 2,000 people and the hottest chicks in New Jersey lining down the block, we would all beat the shit out of each other to play that second room.
You would see the soap stack where it said Soap Factory when you were going up the turnpike. There was Circus. These places would be fire marshal's worst nightmare paths.
We were more kind of punk/metal based, and ended up in places like the Dirt Club, where John Dirt was the owner.
Johnny Dirt, who was a real character, was really helpful to all the bands, and he would give you a start. And they had a great stage. They had a sound man, they had a DJ, and you could get a crowd. And I remember we started to build and build there. And one day we showed up and there was a line around the block, and I thought, well, what are they standing there for? It was for us.
Well, the real scene was in the bathroom where you would snort a lot of off toilets you wouldn't even sit on, but
it was
the style of the time, you know.
But if you could say that you snorted off the toilet
at the
seat
Soap Factory, backstage with
you
White
were
Tiger.
somebody.
Yeah, while White Tiger's on, we're back in the dressing room, hooting lines.
You could only play those bars if you were drawing a lot of people. You know, you packed them in. Most people don't understand how crazy that was. The scene, the era that we grew out of was not indicative of a sound as much as it was indicative of a ethic to survive it.
It became apparent to bars and clubs, especially with the drinking ages, etc., that have been established, that it pays to have original music.
Wait, hold on a second. I forgot something.
Since this legislation has created a lot of disagreement, we decided to sample some editorial opinion around the country. And in a moment, we'll talk to two editors from different regions and a sponsor of the proposed law.
Take my own state of New Jersey. Our fatalities tripled. We raised the age again in 1983. We cut them immediately by a third, but that doesn't prevent our young people from driving across the border, very convenient in the northern part of our state, to New York State, and driving back home and sometimes not making it.
We would call it making the run, either to New York City or upstate New York or wherever. And it just seems so illogical. I wasn't 21 yet, and here I'm on an Army base, and I'm going through officers' basic training for the whole summer. And technically, I couldn't go into the club, you know, and have a beer. Guys in Vietnam, nobody ever asked them, are you 18? Are you 19? I mean, that was silly. How can you tell somebody that's gone and put his life on the line? Number one, you can't vote. Number two, you can't drink. What?
So this is like the search engine back then. This is like if you wanted to know who was playing, you went to the aquarium. This was the Rock Bible, right? So what would happen was I'd open it up and I'd see, you know, like our club, for example, may be slow on a Friday night. I go, why is it so slow? We got a good band, and all of a sudden I look over and I go, holy shit, Mothers has got White Tiger. That's the problem.
It started in 1969 as a hippie magazine. Jim Rensenbrink was rebelling against the man, so the beginning issues were very political. He had free classifieds, so the bands can put in as many classified, you were allowed 30 words, as you wanted. It was just an explosion of local people wanting to be in a band, and they could because there were so many places for them to play.
It was a pretty simple drill, you know. You put an ad in the aquarium paper. The Soap Factory presents Rock Night, and it's Dollar Night, dollar drinks. And before you know it, every bit of 1,600 kids in there.
Our friends would just open the back door for us, and we would just come in and drink. 15, 16 years old.
We had no Photoshop back then. Literally, he painted a New Jersey driver's license on his wall. You stand in front of the square, he took your picture, and he laminated the thing. It was $50. It was the best.
If you looked 18, you got in. And the next thing I know, I was hanging out every weekend, going there.
When it was the disco, that audience drank more mixed drinks. The band audience was drinking Budweiser, Budweiser, Budweiser.
The drinking age went up in 1980, and then in 83 it went up to 21. And then in 84 or 85, it was a national thing. Congress voted that everybody was going to be 21.
When it changed to 21 in Jersey, clubs closed their doors, went out of business like crazy.
Big bands, they were selling their fancy box trucks that they had. They had full-time road crews. I mean, these guys were rock stars, and they played somebody else's music. And then all of a sudden, one day, everybody woke up and said, you know, we can't do this anymore.
Now you're caught up. Back to the metal.
It became apparent to bars and clubs that it pays to have original music. And metal was original music. So we managed to get it in there with the Plasmatics coming, with Hot Tuna coming. It's not metal, but you know, it was an attraction for that Friday, and Raven or Anvil, or Raven and Anvil, would be the attraction for Saturday.
You know, where else could you go to a roller rink, a Skateway 9 roller rink, and see a Metallica show with Anthrax opening up? So Johnny and Marcia were promoting shows like that. They would bring national bands to New Jersey, really expanding our scene.
He brought Anvil to the Route 18 flea market, and Lips was out there with a vibrator. It was hysterical. It was like, yeah, there's a revolution started, man. This is the new way of life.
As things started to build up and club shows were becoming more and more available to me, it came to me that I had 12 open dates, and I didn't know what to do with them. With Twisted Sister, another band that was breaking boundaries in New Jersey at Emmett. So I had that opening. I had a Vandenberg opening with the Rods. I had 2 shows with Venom opening. I had certain headlight shows opening. And that brought me to a band, a young bunch of crazy kids known as Metallica. How exciting that you're actually gonna play New York, New Jersey, and the surrounding area. And you're gonna play with Rod Vandenberg, Venom, Twisted Sister, the Fountain Casino, just Paramount Theater. Great stuff.
One day, I'm doing my show at DHA. I'm only not even a year into doing this metal show. I'm still very uneasy being on the air. And the radio station at that time was in Dover, in a house right on Route 10. And he came and knocked on the door in the middle of the night when I'm doing this show. And I looked through the curtain, I'm like, what the hell's Johnny Z doing here? And he comes in, he goes, hey, I gotta ask you if you can help me with something. I go, John, I'm in the middle of doing a show. What are you doing? You just gotta let me in. And he came in, he had this record under his arm in a bag. And he goes, you gotta play this band for me. And I said, Johnny, I mean, leave it, I'll check it out. And he goes, no, I can't leave until I know somebody played this band on the radio. This is really important to me. I'm trying to start a record company or what is it? He pulls out the record, it's the first Metallica record.
Couch surfing with the Old Bridge Militia was how Metallica truly got their start, while Johnny Z plotted behind the scenes, figuring out how to thrust them into metal fame by using them as an opening act.
Metallica couldn't get signed in California. Lars sent demo tapes everywhere. One ended up with Johnny. Johnny came down to a party, played it for us, because we were younger and we were into it. Whatever Johnny Z told them on the phone, which is the big question that's never been answered, to get 4 guys from San Francisco to drive to Old Bridge, New Jersey, to come here, to start the scene up, to kick it into high gear on the East Coast.
Back in those days, if you weren't into Manowar and Anvil and Venom, then you were a poser. So when Metallica came in and Old Bridge accepted them into their arms, Metallica was just as much of a New Jersey band at that time as they were a Bay Area band.
Grabbing no glasses, grabbing bottles of booze, and just Johnny and Marcia like, what the heck's going on? These people are invading. But it was a cool invasion by some really cool young musicians who were about to birth some metal in New Jersey.
Metal may have been the heaviest of originality emanating from the Garden State, but a mix of genres was already flourishing, where cover bands once ruled. Promoter John Scher had been offering national acts a home in Passaic at his historic Capitol Theater since 1971, filling the void left by Bill Graham when the Fillmore East closed just months earlier.
Bill Graham, who ran the Fillmore East, used to have an exclusivity clause. The act couldn't play anywhere within, like, say, 75 miles of New York City. So that wiped out all of northern and central Jersey. As soon as he closed it, the doors were open. And at which time it looked pretty clear to me that there was a market here, and what could I do to cement it? Found the Capitol Theater in Passaic, which was an old 3,500 capacity vaudeville theater that had been turned into a movie theater. It was instantaneously successful.
It was kind of a porno movie house in the daytime, and you'd see these little men with the trench coats, and then hopefully they cleaned it up, and then all the people would come in and we'd play.
See you in 1979. Good night.
Boy, I don't remember how it started, but we started doing New Year's. We did some shows. I remember we opened up for the Kinks, and we opened up for somebody else that I don't remember, some other band. And we did well. You know, the audience response was good, and I think John Scher wanted to try us out for a show, and we did a show, and it worked out fairly well. And then he wanted us to do New Year's, and we ended up doing like 15 New Year's there. And you know, every New Year's we would be there, every New Year's. I remember the Davies brothers, Ray and Dave Davies from the Kinks, getting into an argument, and the drummer stood up and started to say something, and either Ray or Dave punched him out. Bobby and I, Bobby Bandiero, my good friend, a great guitar player, were sitting in this little alcove in the dressing room watching them do rehearsal, do a sound check, and pow, he hits the drummer, and they came out later and played, and I thought, that's a weird way to live.
When you worked for Monarch Entertainment, which was John Scher's company, and you worked as a stagehand, you start at the lowest possible rung. Now you want to talk about doing some work, you get there for an 8 o'clock load-in, which means you got up at 6:30 to go in, and you walk out to load the truck for the first night of shows, and it's daylight because they play until 5 in the morning. And then you do it again the next day.
The first time that Springsteen played the Capitol, he was second on the bill. It was a John Sebastian show. So in those days, I'd get to the Capitol, you know, early in the day, watch the sound checks and sort of make sure everything was going on all right. So I'm sitting about 20 rows back, just watching, and Sebastian joins me. And very rarely did acts do sound checks that were very long. You know, they'd do 3 songs, 4 songs, check the mics, etc., etc. That was it. And they get into it. In between songs, about a half hour in, Sebastian says to me, "If you think I'm gonna follow those guys, you're out of your mind. All right? There's not a chance." There wasn't even me arguing, you know. It was. I said, "John, you're the headliner, you know." He said, "I'm not trying to follow that band."
In the 80s, on Route 33 in Neptune, the Green Parrot, known for its pizza, was already featuring acts like Lenny Kravitz and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Maxwell's in Hoboken became so popular it fostered the alt-rock sounds of the Bongos, the Feelies, and Yo La Tengo. From the Stone Pony in the Fast Lane in Asbury Park to the Meadowbrook in Cedar Grove, my state's stereo was burning with electricity.
The DJs at the Green Parrot were the heart and soul. If we did not have Chopper, Mike Marone, Loretta Windus, they're playing the new music, taking the music everybody knew and weaving it in with the new stuff all the time, just constantly exposing people to stuff, making them enjoy it,
I can remember one night, Bruce Springsteen comes in. I don't believe there was even a band, or he came in after the band, and there's Bruce Springsteen on the dance floor dancing to the Water Boys with a bunch of girls. It was just such an odd juxtaposition of musical styles and influence, but that's exactly what the Green Parrot was about. And the DJs did that. The DJs had people learning new music, finding out that they liked stuff they didn't even know existed.
WHTG FM disc jockeys doubled as club DJs at the Green Parrot, bringing the music of Dramarama, The Cure, B-52s, and more directly to the patrons of the club.
We had a scene that supported. It's like you've got a radio station playing your songs, you've got the DJs coming and mixing on the weekends and the weekdays, and then you've got all the support for the local bands. Like, that's how you get good, by playing out. You don't get good by just staying at home.
It was that kind of music that wasn't getting any radio play at all on the New York rock stations or down here in Jersey. So I wanted to come up with a station that played those kinds of that kind of music. But the best thing I ever did was assembling the staff that I did, because I found a lot of kids who had never been inside of a radio station before, or had only maybe a little college radio experience or community radio experience, and brought it together, this amazing staff of people that were really passionate about music and knew a lot about how to put songs together in segues. And all I had to do was teach them how to talk on the radio and not curse. And it worked most of the time.
After, the CBGB's thing happened in the 70s in Manhattan, I think it really inspired a whole generation of bands to be able to do it yourself, especially the Ramones, but certainly Talking Heads and Blondie and bands like that. Those bands kind of led the way in the fact that you didn't have to be the best guitar player in the world. You didn't have to be this virtuoso.
They had a respect for the bands that a lot of other clubs didn't have. So like one thing, for example, we liked a lot was when you played there, you were the band that night. It wasn't like there's 20 bands, and set up and get off the stage quick and, just like a mill. This was, it was your night, you got to play.
When we first started, the Hoboken Maxwell scene was really well established. And we weren't trying to duplicate that on the Jersey Shore, but obviously there were some real natural connections. Being able to get the Bongos to be our first national act was a big coup. They got a lot of airplay on HTG. We did really well with them. The Feelies were a very popular band in New Jersey, and they were just such a great show.
We knew that Asbury Park had listen, we loved it there, but we knew that they had a lot of power. And they had Bruce. And we were coming up in the 80s, that's Bruce's decade. And there was competition, for sure, in the minds of many. The Bongos still did our own thing, and we certainly did not try to imitate anybody. But there was definitely, as far as the local scenes, there was contention there, I feel it.
The Hoboken scene was kind of based on the idea of Jersey kids wanting to have a more, urban experience.
Every time you went into a deli, you heard Frank Sinatra. They're very proud of that up there. That's still my hometown that I love so dearly. I would walk down the main drag, which is Washington Street, and there would be a guy up, and I still remember so clearly, a guy up on a fire escape playing congas. So being the son of Cuban immigrants, I was just looking around like, all right, where do I fit in?
It was amazing because Hoboken was still sort of undiscovered. And the rents were really low. Like the legendary rents of Greenwich Village, where we're speaking now, would have been in the 60s or something. So we had a 3-bedroom apartment on Hudson Street for $88 a month. Even though Manhattan was there and that was a sort of a huge presence, Hoboken had its completely own vibe, its own thing. And that made us a unique band, and it made all the bands that then eventually moved there. We were one of the first bands that were there, and soon after people moved to Hoboken because of Maxwell's, and there was something happening there.
And then finally, Bruce did his Glory Days video in Hoboken at Maxwell's, and of course we were invited and got to meet him, and everything was kind of fine after that, and it's total mutual respect now.
mean, the Hoboken sound, the jangle might have been the bongos and the feelies, and you know, so I don't feel the other bands were fairly treated being lumped in with Hoboken sound. I mean, you had Gut Bank and Sex Pod, who were fantastic, you know. I mean, Gut Bank, three women that just rocked harder than...
The great thing about punk, I feel like it saved my life because I probably wouldn't have ever been in a band if punk didn't come along. It gave people an opportunity that really didn't know how to play that well to get in a band and then learn as you go. There was always melody there, and I feel for me it was kind of buried because I had a lot of angsty stuff to get out. You know, a lot of screaming and a lot of noise. I used to put my head basically in, like right up into that amp, and that was like heaven for me.
I came up with the title for our first album was Drums Along the Hudson, which is kind of a great title, and the idea was that we were sending these signals from New Jersey, and New York was picking up on it, like, oh, wait a minute, something's going on over there. And Steve Fallon, who ran Maxwell's, he said, you know, I'm out to prove that Jersey can have just as good a scene as New York. And it's true.
Speaking of across the river, New York City loves to take credit for starting hip-hop, and rightfully so. But I bet you didn't know that I had yet another pop culture pioneer of my own, Sylvia Robinson. Started Sugar Hill Records in Englewood, a label that went on to release Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang, the first hip-hop hit single. As a matter of fact, well, let's hear from some locals.
My dad, being a co-founder of Kool and the Gang, Robert Kool Bell, and my uncle, Ronald Bell, their band started in Jersey City, so my musical roots started there. You know, I was literally born there. My dad's bass guitars would be downstairs, drum sets, pianos, so we would have these family jam sessions. We had a big family, so our cousins would come over and we would DJ, you know, and practice like the rapping and like the Run DMC and stuff. So that's where the music bug came from. You know, it's in my blood, but hip hop is really, really what we gravitated to.
As a kid, I've always listened to just such eccentric genres and women, and of course Queen Latifah was one of those. I was listening to a lot of Lauryn Hill. It was just surrounded by me without me having to put a title to it, genre-wise. It was just the music that I heard.
I think it was also being raised, you know, by my mother, and that's why Lauryn Hill, Queen Latifah, you know, that always spoke to me. You know, getting a chance to meet Lauryn, you know, even working with Queen Latifah and getting a chance to tell her, you know, to her face, you really affected my outlook in honoring our own women. You know, I think in hip hop, there are the obvious. There's Naughty by Nature, but for me, in particular, Queen Latifah, whew, Lauryn Hill, you stop there for me. I'm good.
Even Dionne Warwick from East Orange, who has sold upwards of 100 million records, has flirted with hip hop. Over in New York City, though, Tom Silverman helmed Tommy Boy Records. His ear, however, was aimed across the Hudson.
There was a club called Club 88, and a lot of rappers would come through there from the town, and Naughty by Nature from East Orange. So they were called the New Style then. So they had a group, my brother had a group with a couple of cats from Orange and East Orange. And you know, they would all perform, you know, early. Then the New Style, like I said, ended up becoming Naughty by Nature. So we would see Tretch, Vinny, and KG around town at these parties. And obviously we was in the music, they was in the music. So we started being friends.
They changed their name to Naughty by Nature, went through Warner Brothers, and ended up with Tom. So Tom's like, you know, let me know what you think about this album and what you can do with it. So I listened to the whole album, and I loved the OPP song. It had a nice little vibe to it. I thought I could really cross it over because it had the Michael Jackson ABC sample in it, and Tretch was rhyming with a different style. Because in New York, I mean, you had the Rakim, like everyone had like a slower flow, but Tretch was rhyming really fast over that beat. And I was like, this is exciting. I know I can get this on pop radio, crossover radio, urban. You know, they're about Rakim, they're about New York, so it's gonna be a challenge.
We have this saying, especially in the Bronx created hip hop, Queens will only get dropped, and you still telling lies to me. We wasn't thinking about Jersey back then until Jersey said, no, you gonna think about us. So I'm in Calliope one day. They were putting this poster up on the wall. And I'm like, who is this calling herself Queen? It was like Queen Latifah. And I was like, that's when I first heard of Queen Latifah.
She wanted to sing, and she had her rap records, and the label was against her singing. And I was like, look, I know I can get this record charted. So they said, you know, you're doing well with everything else, let's try it.
Honestly, man, I think that when Jersey came out, it was refreshing. When you go to Brooklyn, you'll be like, oh, this is a Brooklyn dude, because you know, it's the same state, you know, but when you go to Brooklyn, they're different. You go to Queens, they're different. What's the difference? Cross the bridge, you go to Jersey, they're different. All of the boroughs and you know, everybody's different, and they come with their own sound. There were rap groups from everywhere, even like bands like the Fatback Band was throwing rap into their songs. And then when it took off, it was like Sugar Hill Gang.
The 90s and the early part of 2000 was great because music had a balance. I mean, you had gangster rap, you had strip club culture rap, you had fun rap, you had the Biz Marquies of the world. It was fun, and still had rap that was political. It was just so many different variations of it.
Musicians today work in an industry dominated by streaming numbers, ticket sales, and social media. While it's a difficult shakeup from the old days, some genres are using it to their advantage.
Jersey Club is the #1 to dance to on TikTok. So we have this genre of music in this small community in Newark. We're affecting the world.
It's that genre that everybody loves. It's rambunctious. It's your morning coffee. It's your afternoon pick-me-up. It's your afternoon Red Bull. And it's definitely your late-night cappuccino shot. You know what I'm saying? Espresso shot, my bad. It's your late-night espresso shot.
Anybody who's come from out of town and they in tune, they come to Jersey, I gotta hear a Jersey Club song. I gotta hear that Jersey sound. It gets them dancing.
It's something that's really organic and relatable. And I feel like that's why, as of late, you know, this genre has become such a viral sensation. We remix top 40 songs, we remix R&B hits, we remix political skits and memes.
My neighborhood in East Orange is called Down the Hill. That's where Bloods on the East Coast kind of originated in New Jersey. And so I kind of grew up under watching that happen.
A lot of us don't live past 2025. Like, that's a reality that we live with. And with me coming from an urban background, I was around danger 24/7, and music was my outlet away from that. So while my friends were out there gangbanging and all that, I was inside making music.
If you live in the suburbs, when you walk out your front door, you see your front lawn. You get in your car. Nobody's gonna bother you between getting to the front door and getting to your car. When these kids walk out their front door and they live in these project buildings, you know what's going on in them hallways? Drug deals, smoking crack, guns. They gotta walk. Imagine having to walk through a dice game to get down the steps. Somebody might take your backpack on the way. So I see what these kids are going through, and I'm like, I gotta motivate the youth. Any show I do, I got 20 kids dancing, and I pay them all. 20 kids from Newark, I don't care where they from. You know how to dance? Pull up, I'll put it on Instagram, and I'll pay you. Or I'll give you free merchandise.
It gave me a lot of opportunities that I might have not been presented if I didn't really see potential in it, you know? That's why I haven't stopped.
There's a very popular record called It's Time for the Percolator. Somebody sends me a remixed beat of that. I find the guy who made the beat, my boy DJ Fade, and we go in the studio and record a song called It's Time. Now, it's time for the percolator. We take the percolator out and it's just, it's time. It's time. I email that song, I swear to God, I emailed just 3 people. This is the crazy thing, true story. I get a text from a Hot 97 DJ. Yo, turn your radio on in 2 minutes. What? Talk to me. Driving, I'm listening to Hot 97, and I hear them play, It's Time for the Percolator. It's time. So I'm like, okay, you play the percolator, that's cool. Then, shout out to Unicorn, shout out to the Jersey Gods, this is brand new, this is what Jersey sound like. My song comes on the radio. I'll pull the car over, got the radio blast, I'm in a McDonald's parking lot. There's like 20 other cars with their radio on. They don't know what this is, but they're like, oh, this sounds like Jersey. I'm standing on the roof of my car. Yo, this is me. This is me right going. I've never heard myself on the radio prime time prior to that.
It's that kind of excitement that makes these musicians special. It's a blending of influences, a spark, a work ethic embedded deep within today's up-and-comers and in household names from all over the state.
She screams, he screams, they scream. They all scream for London like I'm ice cream. They all scream for London like I'm ice cream. They all scream for London, yeah, they call me London, and I am the truth. Post on Money 8, but I still tear up a booth.
Who's your favorite rapper?
Me, but besides me is probably Cardi B and Nicki Minaj.
Are you gonna be the next Cardi B?
Probably.
Everything is so multi-genred, and it's almost kind of going back to like everyone's like mixed race. It's the same thing when it comes to music. At this point in time, it's all infused together. You're always going to be taking in what you're hearing. So if you're listening to some Spanish music or you're listening to some like metal or folk, when I go down to play my little folk songs, I'm going to have those things in the back of my head that's just going to trickle in.
So many people have been influenced by Bruce. I mean, look at all the bands that came after Bon Jovi. I mean, a lot of them were carbon copies. And when Frank came out, you know, he was the guy. And then everyone else just kind of circled around him. Eddie Rabbitt was originally from New Jersey, and he was the first, you know, crossover, really, when you think about it. You know, his music crossed over genres. And again, because I think that as much as he was put in that Nashville machine, he was Jersey.
Singing, you better watch yourself.
I think it's easy to say that Bruce Springsteen and Southside Johnny are the Jersey sound, but I think it's broader than that. There's so much compressed in New Jersey. I mean, how can you not include Frank Sinatra, or, you know, how can you not include, you know, even Yola Tango, or, you know, as part of, or the Smithereens.
See, Brown, he always told me, I don't care if I'm playing for 2 people or if I'm in Def Leppard playing for 10,000, you know? It's all the same amount of energy. And I've always thought that, you know what, that's the way it's gotta be.
The other thing that Springsteen left in his wake, aside from the tradition of that, you know, big soul rock and roll sound, was also an idea rooted in song and song content. And during that time period, what you found were a lot of songwriters on pilgrimages to come seeking that magic that was in the air that Springsteen captured.
You know, I admire Mr. Springsteen. I admire him a lot from coming from where he comes from and doing what he's done, because that gives, to me, that gives the encouragement. Be yourself and do what you want to do.
You know, we boiled it down to that. We want to make the music we want to make. We want to write about what we want to write about. We wanted to do it the way we want to do it. And we're grateful to the audience that sticks with us through all those permutations. But mostly it's just the idea that you are fortunate to be able to make music for a living. Incredibly lucky. And you better kick it every time on stage. I mean, every night, night after night, I don't care how sick you are. I don't care how tired. I don't care how fed up. You better kick on stage.
I was picked up by a bad sign down a dark road, past a gold mine. I could feel it just a mile from me.
You know, the reason why my band, we're always playing live and always trying to get better is because the people around us are so good and better than us, so we want to be as good as they are.
The odds of blowing up in this business have to be...
Oh, good God. All right, Steve. Never tell me the odds. But yeah, they're not great. And that's why the blue-collar Jersey attitude, the ball-busting, the sisterhood and brotherhood of musicians at all levels is so important. It's that jolt of Jersey that takes bands as diametrically opposed as Phish, Pantera, Eagles, Stone Temple Pilots, and Steely Dan, and brings them to that next level. Don't tell me there's no connections to be made.
I went to see Kiss December 16th, 1977 at Madison Square Garden. Went with a friend of mine by the name of John Bon Jovi. I was 13, he was 15. We took the train from South Amboy up to the Garden, and I saw a show that changed my life forever. And I walked out of there knowing that I was going to do something with music.
There's always a network of people looking out for each other and places to play, and that's one of the lucky things about my life, and the Bouncing Souls, is that we had that. You had to live it. You couldn't just half it. You couldn't be a part-timer.
I love The Saint, I love Scott. The Wonder Bar has been very supportive as well. These people have all, let me develop on their stages. So going from somebody who is a solo singer-songwriter playing a 6-minute song without a bridge and just doing whatever feels right for me, they've let me do that. And I'm now at a point where, I'm honing in on my songs more and I'm shaping them in a more conscious way.
You go somewhere else in the country, it's hard to actually find gigs. Whenever we tour, it's like you realize, it's the first time we toured, we realized how special New Jersey is.
In Jersey, you sit down on the edge of the stage, or you unplug your guitar and you walk into the middle of the room and you just sing. And you get everybody to sing with you, because that's Jersey, that's community.
Eras of artists, painters, musicians tend to crop up together. It's no mystery that the Beatles and Jerry and the Pacemakers and Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas and Freddie and the Dreamers all came out of Liverpool. They were all about to explode at the same time. It was a scene.
I remember hearing T.T. Quick for the first time and just hearing that yell, I guess they were almost like our older musical brothers that we would try and keep up with.
I'm in a lonely place without you. I'm in a lonely place without you.
One story really hits home for me, and it sums it all up when people say, why do you do this, or what keeps you going? A couple of years ago, we were checking out of a hotel in New Hampshire, and the woman behind the desk said, "Oh, you guys are in the Smithereens, right? Yeah, I'm sorry I missed your show last night. I really wanted to go." She said a dear friend of mine was also a big fan of yours, and sadly she passed away. And by the way, on her tombstone, she had the lyrics to your song, "In a Lonely Place," inscribed. And so that says it all.
Well, I guess if I had to sum it up, New York has grit, Philly has soul, and if I were to compliment myself, which I am, New Jersey has more passion than you could ever know, an attitude you can't brush off, and a sound you could never name, but never forget. But don't take my word for it.
New York guys are really great, but if you want a guy that's gonna really walk the dog, that's gonna really make it feel like something, you gotta get a guy from New Jersey.
I think if there's one thing I can say about Jersey, it's authenticity comes from here.
You're having to fight your way and get people to listen to you, because it's hard to cut through. So I think the Jerseyness of it is the, hey, over here, listen to me.
That's what sparked a lot of these musicians in Jersey say, oh, no, we're Jersey. We come to kick it.
It's an attitude, no matter where you're coming from, no matter what you call it. You could call it Taylor hammer, you could call it pork roll, fried up with eggs, and it's going to taste the same. It's the attitude.
It's who these people are and where they came from, how they look at life. There's a certain attitude from being New Jersey, looking at the city. So close, but yet so far.
It's got a little bit of New York, it's got a little bit of Philly, there's the shore, there's the Pine Barrens, there's the mountains.
That in itself is the most New Jersey thing, to be really fierce about your region.
There's room for Metallica, there's room for Springsteen. It's New Jersey, man. They love their music.
We had a fight in us that you couldn't, and a fire that you couldn't be extinguished. We were in direct competition with all the bands from New York and Philly, and it was great, because we won.
Heart on our sleeves. We are from New Jersey, and I think we're all proud of that. And as I say, we wanted to shove it up there.
Locked up, wrung out, ready to pop. Waiting for the other shoe to drop. But come tonight, the juices start to flow. One last chance to try to get it right. Turn it up, let it go. Yeah, that's what makes your life worth living for.
Drank one, another round, easily going down, trying to get away from my wasted yesterdays. And I get so confused between love and being used, so good at being wrong and wondering why it took so long. But I'm still holding on, 'cause sometimes that road is long. Play two faces on display. Was just trying to be nice, but you can keep all your advice. And I get so confused. Am I stuck or paying dues? So good at moving on, even after it went wrong. And I'm still holding on, 'cause sometimes that road is long. One more, then I'll be out the door. Seems like it's time to pay. Now I'll just be on my way. But am I